Welcome to the Leadership Lab, where I sit down with leaders to unpack the decisions, mindsets, and moments that shape how they lead. I'm your host, Karen Reardon, and today I'm joined by Marlene Cameron. Hi, Marlene. Thank you so much for jumping in today. So great to have you here. Where are you calling from?
From Calgary.
Calgary. I used to live in Calgary. I've moved. I'm in the Okanagan. Yeah. I've have to say, it's been a bit of an adjustment, but yeah, it's been really good. Marlene, you've been in the leadership and coaching space for a number of years now. Can you share a little bit about your background with us?
Well, I took my coaching training way back in 2001, and it was kind of exciting at the time because coaching was quite new. It's quite a novelty. People were curious about coaching, what happens when you work with a coach. And my understanding from day one was always this idea that the coach is there to bring out the client's wisdom, to have them access their own sense of things, their own knowing about things, because from that place, they've got that clarity. The idea is theirs, so they've got confidence in it. They've got the energy to move forward with it, and so it's always the bringing out the best in the client and having them see what they really got going for them.
I can see that. So has that changed over like you said, you've been in coaching for a while now. Has your philosophy changed, or has that changed a lot? Do you see a lot of changes in the industry right now around coaching?
My philosophy has stayed the same, but I have seen some changes in the industry, and it's more, I would say, more just the generalization of the use of the word coach. So what I've seen is that people have come into the coaching industry who may have previously been a consultant or an advisor or a strategist or something like that. They provided valuable services to the organizations and the people they work with, but now they're calling themselves coaches. So it sort of got integrated with more like giving advice. So people were looking to coaches for the kind of like, well, show me the way and tell me what to do. And this is my personal take on it, but and others, of course, are going to have a very different opinion. But that's what I saw was sort of because I hear even talking to women I know that work with business coaches, they're saying things like, well, the coach wants me to, or the coach thinks I should, or the coach gave me this deadline. And it's like coaching is about empowering people. It's about empowering, connecting with that part of themselves that's inspired. If we're inspired to do something, we don't need to have somebody tell us when to get it done by. So this is my personal take on it. So you're probably going to talk to lots of others that see there is value in having somebody hold the flame to your feet or whatever, but I've never seen it that way. I think it's all about waking people up to themselves and their own passions and their own talents, and with the realization they've got what it takes to move forward and achieve what they want.
I agree. Traditionally, there is a lot of the traditional path is where people sort of looking for someone to tell them what to do, like, do this or do that, and give direction. And what I'm hearing from you is it's more from within, like bringing out that innate passion or spark, if you will, and get them to find the drive internally rather than an external pressure. So how do you work with clients on that? Like, do you have some tools or systems that you use?
It's interesting. I worked in a specialized area called energy psychology for almost 15 years, and I kind of shifted over there a few years after I'd taken my coaching training and started working with clients. And so energy psychology is all about helping people kind of regulate their emotional state. So if they have a situation or circumstance they found upsetting or annoying, we can get them to kind of emotionally become more neutral about it. So they have more clear thinking. They can make better choices, and see more potential. But I left that after a while because I came across that he had a different understanding about our true nature as human beings and sort of how we're kind of the brilliance behind our own operating system, if you will. So I work with that understanding now. It's actually called the 3 Principles. And it just explains how human beings experience their own personal reality. So when people get caught up in feeling overwhelmed or stressed out about something, we can point them back to the what's really behind all of that. And it's very simple. We basically experience our thinking moment to moment. So we experience thoughts. So we feel what we think, and our five senses bring our thoughts to life. So it creates a temporary reality, which of course is always shifting. One day you love your job, the other day kind of drives you nuts. And so you start to see how our experience becomes much more temporary and transitory. And so if we do get caught up in going down the rabbit hole or getting very discouraged about something, we can acknowledge the idea that we've just kind of gone over there in our mind. We've kind of gone, I call it, go to the side of imagining worst case scenarios and what if this happens, having an experience of that discouraging thinking. But really, you're fine. Nothing's inherently wrong with you. So it helps people to be more resilient, more buoyant, take their moods and things more lightly, and just generally have a nicer time of life.
Do you see a lot of people embracing your modality and your method of coaching? Do you find you're getting a lot of positive response to your coaching, the three principles?
Yeah, it's interesting because this understanding was actually discovered by a Canadian man like over 50 years ago. We had this huge epiphany on Salt Spring Island, of all places. And so he just started talking initially to people that lived on Salt Spring, and then more and more people started coming, and then the psychologists and the psychiatrists started coming. It's like, what is he telling people? That they have this natural sense of well-being, that they just tend to be happier, more settled, have nicer relationships, are doing better in their jobs and their businesses. And it's just basically teaching that we have this innate mental health, this innate well-being, this innate wisdom. And so when we point people in that direction, we show them that that's sort of who they truly are, and not point to all their issues and problems and that type of thing. People positively respond to that because they get to see that for themselves. And so, but it's like anything else, as you know, Karen, it takes time for new ideas to be integrated into a big system.
For sure.
Lots of people in the mental health field work with this understanding. Lots of coaches do now, even school teachers, and they've taken it into prisons and all over the place. But it's still not that quite well known because it's a very different paradigm, if you want to call it that, than our conventional understanding. Because we've always thought that our experience comes from the outside world, like we're taking in information through our five senses and responding and reacting to kind of what's out there. And what he saw clearly is that we're actually projecting our experience. So our five senses are bringing our thoughts to life, and this is what we're experiencing, this thought moment to moment. And you can see this too, because if you look at any situation or even a person in your life, and you start to realize my thinking about them, my feeling about them does change over time, and I do see them in a better light or a poorer light. So it just helps us to see where the experiences actually coming from the inside out, essentially, rather than the outside in. And it just helps us to take life more lightly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned, this is a different paradigm that people are operating from. So you as a coach, you as a business owner, when you go out, you're looking to work with new clients. How do you sort of approach them? How do you go out and talk to people or any new clients that come and work with you? Like, how does that sort of happen for you?
Well, because this is an understanding, and what I mean by an understanding is kind of like we know gravity's there, and we kind of know how it works, but it's like, what are the repercussions of gravity? Like, what happens when we acknowledge that? And this understanding is kind of the same way. Like, it just basically explains how we operate as a human being. So basically, I teach people that. Like, I teach people their true nature is actually presence, that calm, focused clarity, and then also when people can understand where their experience is coming from. Because I work with a lot of people who are feeling very stressed and overwhelmed and, burning out and thinking that that's their environment or that it's their circumstances or is that their boss or something is the one that's the issue that's causing them this experience. And so over time, they get to see more and more that experience is coming from within them. And so they stop pointing fingers at the outside world, and blaming people or situations for how they feel. Right. And that's very freeing because if you understand that you're not a victim of life, that's happening out there and that's making me feel a certain way, it's very empowering. It's like, wait a minute, I'm feeling kind of annoyed about this, but I'm just feeling annoyed about it. So what? It'll pass. It'll move on. I'll be fine. Like get back to being present and productive.
And so, I mean, you said you've taken a different shift, like in your coaching career, right? You started down one path and now you're down this path. What for you personally has been the biggest challenge in making that shift and changing direction a little bit?
I think for me, it's the trying to meet the expectations of potential clients, because I'm seeing more and more that people are kind of looking for the how-to type coaching, like, well, show me how to do this or tell me how to do this. And so it's actually having a different conversation with people who might be a little bit more open or curious about, is there a way that I could understand, kind of how things work that would give me an opportunity to have life feel more effortless or more enjoyable, be in that, we call that state of like ease and flow. Like, would that be worth finding out about without having to kind of fix how I feel or fix my problems or that type of thing? So it's a very different conversation. And I find once I start to engage people in the conversation, because it is a little different, some people get very curious about it and they're very interested in continuing. So what I see coaching with this understanding, it's really more of a conversation, because I know deep down in a deeper level or a deeper dimension of their being, I know they already know this, but it's sort of like, it's like waking it up or having this realization or these insights, we call them. It's like they kind of get to see it for themselves, and that's very cool. That's what changes everything. That's the foundation of transformation.
No, I hear you. And I think, it's really powerful working from inside rather than externally, right? And you mentioned, sometimes it's a little challenging to have these initial conversations, right? Once you have the conversation, and I think you're allowed to share your knowledge and your wisdom, it gets easier. So I guess, to that end, how do you overcome that challenge of like initiating conversations with people who may or may not be receptive, who don't really understand what your coaching modality is all about? What do you do to sort of overcome that?
What I find the most powerful way to communicate something that's quite different is to talk about my own experience. I've always been very well educated, accomplished, successful in business. And I went around with this kind of imposter syndrome cloud over my head for many years. And I did all kinds of things. I did all of the strategies and the steps and the techniques and the tools and this, and it didn't really make a dent in the insecurity I felt, the anxiety I felt, the fear I felt. Like, what is wrong with me? Like, why does this come and go? Like, am I never going to be able to kind of figure this out? So I finally feel like confident enough to have conversations with prospective clients. And so I share the story about how this understanding has just really helped me see what that was all about. I was sort of innocently creating that experience because that's where the experience comes from.
Right.
And I think that's the most compelling thing is to share our own personal transformation, and share our own stories about something that I looked at for probably 20 years and never really kind of made a dent in this experience of self-doubt until this understanding really opened that all out for me. And I think people can relate to that because lots of people who are very accomplished, very successful, kind of secretly doubt themselves and think that they're going to be found out, and someone's going to come and tap them on the shoulder and said, you've been faking it all this time. So I think that's the only way we can share something that's not like a theory. It's not a technique. It's not because I taught a technique for 15 years, and so this is different. It's like it's the information that's the empowering aspect of it.
Right. And like you said, it's the authenticity of your story and your experience, and I guess inviting other people to go in and get their own experiences, figure out what their own wisdom is.
Right.
So In this journey as a coach and as you've grown your business, what would be sort of, I guess, one of the biggest accomplishments, and then conversely, sort of one of the biggest frustrations or challenges you work with? So what would be one of the biggest accomplishments that you feel like you've achieved in this new coaching direction that you've taken?
Well, for me, I think the biggest accomplishment that's come to me through this understanding and kind of this 20-year plus journey in the coaching industry is like how much more authentic I feel, how much more grounded, how much more present, how much more connected I feel to other people, including my clients. And so I'm coming from a much different place, and I think that's sort of the gift for me in this understanding. And when I was teaching the technique, I actually had quite a successful business. I was teaching it more and more and had more students and more courses and more classes. And when I decided to kind of just leave all of that behind, honestly, I'm still in kind of rebuilding business mode, but I'm coming at it from such a different place that it's just much more enjoyable. I'm much more trusting that things will unfold, and that I can really help people by sharing this understanding, helping them see that life doesn't have to be stressful and difficult and annoying.
Or momentarily annoying, maybe. So you said you're tackling your business growth a little differently than you've done before. Can you share a little bit about what that looks like for you today? How are you growing? What are you doing to grow your business?
I think with this new level of understanding and confidence, I'm just more willing to be more visible. I have a women's business lunch that I host every month. I'm doing more social media posts and making more videos, and just being more willing to be kind of the face and the voice of my business, because I do feel more authentic. I feel like more like what I have to share with others is coming from a place where I'm kind of tuned into my own deeper wisdom and my own deeper well-being. And so it's kind of sharing that more authentically rather than having the technique that I can use, go out and help people fix things, but still having my own issues too, right, that have not been resolved. So
just really using your voice, and usually through social media, using your voice and your story.
And speaking.
I'm sorry?
And speaking.
And speaking. So do you go to speaking events, and do you do courses or workshops or anything like that? Or is it more only one-on-one that you work with people?
No, I do small group. Yeah. And I still do some professional speaking. I'm paid to speak to an audience, a business audience of some type. And it's just, I find it's because how coaching has evolved. I think that it's not so much what you promise. It's like who you are.
Yes.
That make the difference.
For sure. I think that's what keeps client retention high and people coming back. Just the way you show up differently invites people to work with you. So do people tend to find you more organically through social media, or do you do outreach on your own? How are people finding you?
I do a combination of things. I did join the Calgary Petroleum Club, which is a really nice venue to, I'd say, kind of do that more organic networking and get to know people over time and meet people and, develop those connections. As I mentioned, I do some outside networking events too. Then some social media, my newsletter, all that. I do a little bit of everything. I don't think there's a magic bullet. I just do what I'm inspired to do, really.
For sure. Do you think other people in your industry, other coaches, do you think they struggle with, imposter syndrome or some of the challenges that you faced in your business? Do you get a chance to sort of speak with other coaches and see where they are in their journey?
There's always a few coaches who do extremely well. They, for whatever reason, they found their niche. They've developed a loyal clientele just through their own intelligence, their own connections, their own being. Quite a few of my colleagues actually work for coaching companies now because Most coaches like to coach, and to build your own business takes a lot of non-coaching time. You're networking, you're writing articles, you're doing lots of telephone reach outs and connecting with people. And so that's always a trade-off. Do you want to run your own business and do all, the promotional sales marketing, or do you want to just coach? And so there's something for everybody.
And where do you fall in that spectrum?
I like the independence of having my own practice, even though it's inherently fraught with risk and uncertainty.
But if you think about it, so is life, right? I don't think we think in life in the same terms, but yeah, you're right. It is. So where would you like to be in the next 6 or 12 months? What's your vision for you and your business?
It's interesting that you should ask me this now, because I've had a little bit of a kind of moment this week. And it's like, where do I want to go with this? And because of my own experience with imposter syndrome, I used to travel to conferences in the United States and Canada and talk about imposter syndrome and have people do the assessments that Dr. Clance designed. And I don't know, somehow that just keeps circling back. It's sort of, it's like, I stray away and then it comes back. And what I'm seeing out there is a lot of misunderstanding about what it's all about, and a lot of suggestions that I found have may or may not be very helpful. And so I think I want to sort of set the record straight around imposter syndrome and become more of a spokesperson, not only helping people have a better understanding of, like this, the symptoms are pretty observable. People dismiss their accomplishments or success. They think they were lucky. It's a fluke. They worked way harder. Somebody liked them. That's why they're chosen. Because I've done all of that. But to take people into this inside out understanding rather than the outside in understanding, and help them see when that insecure thinking shows up and the anxiety shows up, that's just, like my colleague calls them, that's just rumble strips on the side of the road. It lets you know that you're using this amazing power of your mind and your intelligence to create, scenarios that are not pleasing, And so what happens when people start to see that, because we still go there, like, we can't control our thoughts. We live in a kind of like a potpourri of the energy of you call the thought field. But I become more discerning and more resilient. And when something shows up, when the self-doubt shows up, it's like, okay, I know what's going on here. And I'm much less tempted to kind of buy into it or think it's real or think it's true or think there's something wrong with me. And so I become much more at ease with the experience.
Right. So how do you want to share that with people, or how do you want to, I guess, impact more people? You have this great vision. You want to, help people and coach people. So how do you want to, I guess, do that? Are you interested in doing that on a larger scale? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I am. I'd like to do more podcasts as a guest. I don't really want to run my own podcast. I like speaking. I especially like working with professional women in business, because I think women sometimes have even more challenges just simply because there's natural bias in the workplace. I like writing little articles, and so kind of like that 3-prong approach between podcasts and just speaking in general and doing articles and things like that. Yeah, just get the word.
And you find people are finding you with that 3-prong approach. You find people are finding you.
Well, we'll see, because this is kind of a little revelation I had this week, and so kind of going back out into the podcast world and start offering. I'm concerned that it's kind of been overdone, because there's, so many people talk about it and so many people have their solutions to it. But what I have to offer is a very fresh approach. And so my job is to offer it in a way that sounds fresh or different or, more creative or more of a unique approach that I think will be helpful.
And do you see any challenges in that right now? Like, what would be one major challenge you're facing today?
Well, because I'm human, I can still have that discouraging thinking, like, my energy can go down, like I start to feel discouraged, and that's just going to happen. There's no getting around that, but that's just how life happens. But I also have a really good support system now that I didn't have before. So I'm really encouraged that I'm going to pull this off.
So you tap into your support network when you are feeling discouraged or down to help bolster you and move forward. Is that it?
Well, this understanding is such a unique approach, because once you see something, then you're always seeing something else and something else. So it's just this series of kind of waking up or realizations or insights or ahas. And so I meet a couple times a week, actually, with 2 different groups, and we just continue the conversation, and we just keep seeing more and more. And that's what gets me excited about sharing this, because it's not one and done. Like, once somebody's opened up to this realization that they have this deep innate intelligence that connected to the intelligence behind all creation, it's like, what else is there, right? So once you see it, it's like, it's very empowering. It's brings a nice feeling. It brings just a greater trust in yourself and in life.
Right, for sure. So on that note, like, we talked sort of a bit about, what's been frustrating. What do you think's working really well for you in your business right now?
I think it's my capacity to connect with people. I didn't have that before, because one of the things that I realized, and it was one of the first things I noticed when I started becoming less and less insecure, is how much more I could feel connected to another person. Because when we have these insecurities, there's me and then there's the other person. Then I got all this thinking between me and them, how am I doing? Do they like me? What, do they think I'm okay? Do they, and so because we can only be in one place at a time, we can be in the present moment, or we can be up on our heads thinking. So when that started falling away, I just started feeling more connected to other people and having richer conversations and more heartfelt conversations. And I think that's made the biggest difference for me. And because coaching is such the deep work I do, it's a very intimate relationship that you have with another human being. And so developing that rapport, that relationship over time, and then somebody wanting to kind of come in and have a longer conversation over a longer period of time.
Yeah. I'm really excited. Yeah, the work you're doing sounds amazing. And it sounds like you're doing well, and you're touching so many people. And I just want to thank you for sharing your time and your insights, and also your experience. And for those who are looking to connect with you, where would the best place for them to do that be?
Well, my website is marlenecameron.com.
Okay.
Pretty easy. And on LinkedIn, I'm Marlene Cameron. So
So nothing too difficult there. Really easy to find you then. Again, Marlene, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I really enjoyed it. Loved learning about your business and where you are today. Thank you so much again.
You're very welcome. I really enjoyed it. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for spending your time with me today on the Leadership Lab podcast. My hope is that this conversation sparked a new perspective or reinforced something you already knew. Until next time, keep leading with curiosity and intention.